There is a piece of land for sale about 20 minutes from where I live. Half an acre, flat, sunny, a soft little slope down toward a stream at the back. The asking price is fair. The grass is green. There is a single old plum tree near the road that flowers white in April. A young couple looked at it last spring with a realtor in a clean gray suit, and I watched them fall in love with it in about 4 minutes. I would not let my son build a doghouse on it. I knew that in less than a minute, and I knew it before I looked at a single document, before I asked the price, before the realtor finished his first sentence. I knew it from the name of the place, from the color of the grass in one particular strip, and from the cracks running up the side of the neighbor's concrete wall. The land was telling me everything. It tells everyone everything. Most people have just never been taught the language. My name is Kenji Nakamura. My family has farmed and built on the same valley land for longer than anyone living can remember. And the one thing we were never allowed to forget, the thing my grandfather drilled into me when I was a boy walking the fields behind him, is that you do not buy land. You read it first, and then you buy what it tells you is safe. I am going to teach you to read it the way he taught me. By the end of this, you will be able to stand on any empty lot in the country and know, in about 60 seconds, whether the ground under your feet is going to hold your house up for 100 years or swallow it in the first bad storm. And then I am going to tell you the part that should make you angry, which is that the people selling you that land already know which kind it is. They have known the whole time. And there is an entire quiet machinery in the land business built around making sure you never learn to read what they can read. Stay with me. Let me start with the single fastest tool there is, the one that lets me rule out a piece of land before I have even gotten out of the car. It is the name. In my country, the old places carry names that go back hundreds and hundreds of years, and those names were not chosen to sound pretty. They were chosen by farmers and fishermen and mountain people who watched what the land did, generation after generation, and they wrote the warning right into the name so their grandchildren would not have to learn the lesson by drowning. A place where the river used to flood was named for water. A hillside that slid was named for the snake because that is what a landslide looks like, coming down a mountain in the rain. A long brown snake of mud tearing the trees out by the roots. A low, wet hollow that held standing water was named for the swamp, the marsh, the pond, the valley bottom. We have characters in our writing for all of these. A character for valley, a character for marsh stream, a character for hollow, for pond, for swamp, for embankment, for the dragon, for the snake. When I see one of those in the name of a piece of land, I do not need to walk it. The people who lived and died on that ground already walked it 10,000 times, and they left me a note. A place named for the dragon is a place where the water rises. A place named for the snake is a place where the hillside comes down. A place named for the valley bottom is a place that floods when the one upstream of it cannot hold anymore. I read the name, and half the time, that is the whole inspection. 60 seconds, sitting in the car. Now here is the part that should make the hair stand up on your neck. The developers know this too. And so what they do, when they buy up a piece of cheap, dangerous, low-lying, flood-prone ground to cut into building lots, is they change the name. They take a place that for 400 years was called something like Snake Hollow Marsh, a name that screamed "get out," and they rename the new subdivision something soft and expensive sounding. Pleasant Heights, Sunny Hills, Green Terrace, something with the word hill or heights or terrace in it, even when the land is flat as a table and sits in the lowest spot for a mile. They are not naming the place, they are burying the warning. They are taking the one piece of free, honest information that 4 centuries of dead farmers left for you, and they are painting over it because the truth does not sell lots and a pretty lie does. So the first thing I want you to do, before you ever drive out to see a piece of land, is find out what that ground was called before somebody dressed it up. The old maps will tell you. The old survey records will tell you. The county office has them. The library has them. And more of them are sitting online for free if you know to look. Find the name from 100 years ago, 200 years ago. If the modern name is Sunny Hills and the old name on the 1890 map means the bottom of the wet valley, you have just learned more in 5 minutes at a desk than the realtor will tell you in 5 visits, and it cost you nothing. They are counting on you not bothering. Bother. All right. Say the name is clean, or you cannot find an old one, and you actually have to go stand on the dirt. Good. Now, I am going to teach you what to look at, and I am going to teach you in the order I look, because the order matters. The first thing my eyes go to is the water. Not water you can see, there usually is not any, but where the water wants to go. Every piece of land on Earth is part of a slope, even the ones that look perfectly flat. Water is the most honest thing in the world. It cannot lie, and it cannot be bribed, and it always goes to the lowest place and sits there. So I stand on the lot and I ask the ground a simple question. If it rained 4 inches tonight, where would all of it end up? You find the answer by looking at the shape of the land around you, not just the lot itself. Look at the neighbors' yards, the road, the ditch, the tree line. Find the low point, and if the low point is on the land you are thinking of buying, walk away. That is where the water is going to pool. That is where it is going to sit against your foundation. That is where the damp is going to creep up into your walls every rainy season for the rest of your life. A house in the low spot is a house with its feet in a bucket. It does not matter how nice the kitchen is. The second thing I look at is the plants, because the plants are a confession. The land cannot stop itself from telling you what it is. Where the ground is always wet, certain things grow and certain things do not. Reeds grow in wet ground. Rushes grow in wet ground. Tall, coarse grasses, the kind with the fat seed heads, grow where the soil stays damp under the surface even when the top looks dry. Moss grows where the sun does not dry the ground out, which means the ground is holding water it should be shedding. And bamboo. I will tell you about bamboo, because people see a stand of bamboo, and they think how pretty, how peaceful. Bamboo loves the same wet, soft, unstable ground that you do not want your house sitting on. A thick stand of bamboo creeping across the back of a lot is the land telling you the water table is high and close. Learn 5 or 6 water-loving plants by sight, and you will read the wet in a piece of ground from across the street in the dry season when the realtor swears it never floods. But here is the thing I want you to look at hardest, the thing that took me years to fully understand, and it is the simplest of all. Look at the color of the grass, not whether it is green, all of it is green. Look for the strip that is greener. On a piece of land that floods or holds water underground, the grass over the wet part grows greener and taller and lusher than the grass around it because it is drinking from a source the rest of the field does not have. A long, dark green stripe running across an otherwise ordinary lawn is the ghost of an old stream, a buried ditch, a drainage line, an underground vein of water that is still there, still flowing, still soaking the ground 3 feet down. The developer regraded the lot and laid sod over the top and made it flat and pretty, but he could not stop the grass from telling on him. Find the greener stripe. That is where your foundation will crack first. Now the third thing, and this one is my favorite because it is free and it is honest and the seller cannot hide it from you. Look at the neighbors. Look at the houses already standing on either side, especially the older ones. The ones that have been there 30 or 40 years and have had time to show what the ground does to a building. Walk along the street and look at their foundations, their concrete walls, their garden walls. Are there cracks? Long diagonal cracks running up from the corners of windows, stair-step cracks in the block, a retaining wall that is leaning out or bowing or has been patched and repatched, a house that is tilting just slightly, a door frame that is no longer square, a gap opening up between the house and the front steps. That is the ground moving. That is soft, unstable, settling, shifting earth, and it does not stop at the property line. If the man next door has spent 30 years watching cracks crawl up his walls, the land under your lot is the same land, and it is going to do the same thing to you. The neighbors are a 40-year experiment that somebody else paid for, run for free, right in front of you. Read the results. I have walked away from beautiful lots because of one leaning wall 3 houses down. The realtor thought I was crazy. I was not crazy. I was reading. The fourth thing is the soil itself, and for this, you have to get your hands dirty, which is exactly why most buyers never do it. Bring a small spade or even a stout stick, and where nobody minds, dig down a foot or so at the edge of the lot. I want you to look at the soil and I want you to smell it. Good ground you can build on, is firm. It has structure. It crumbles in your hand, but it holds together. The color is even. Bad ground, the kind you do not want, comes in a few flavors, and they all give themselves away. If the soil is gray, bluish gray, a dull, lifeless gray down a foot or two, that gray is the color of soil that sits without oxygen, which means it sits in water. If it smells sour, rotten, like an egg gone bad, that is the smell of a swamp, of organic matter rotting underwater, and it tells you this was wetland once and the water has not really left. If you hit a layer of soft, black, spongy stuff, full of old roots and rotted leaves, that is peat, old swamp, and it will compress under the weight of a house like a wet sponge under a brick. Firm and even and clean smelling is what you want. Gray and sour and spongy is the land begging you not to do it. And there is a special kind of bad ground I have to warn you about by name, because it is the one that gets dressed up the nicest and sold the dearest, and that is made land. Filled land. Reclaimed land. Ground that was a marsh or a pond or even shallow water that somebody trucked in dirt and rubble to fill, leveled off flat, and sold as a building lot. It looks perfect. It is flat. It is clear. It is often near the water with a lovely view, and the price is good. And in a serious shaking of the earth, that fill turns to liquid. The loose, waterlogged ground simply loses its strength all at once and behaves like a heavy soup, and the houses on top of it sink and tilt and crack, while the houses 2 streets over on the old original ground stand perfectly fine. We have watched it happen. Whole neighborhoods on old reclaimed ground ruined in an afternoon, while the old village on the hill above them did not lose a roof tile. How do you spot it? The old maps again. The flatness where everything around is hillier. The newness, the way it sits a little lower or a little higher than the natural land beside it. And the name. Always come back to the name. Which brings me to the last and oldest sign. And this is the one I love the most, because it is the wisdom of the dead reaching out to protect the living. In my country, along the coasts where the great waves have come in for 1,000 years, there are old stones. Stone markers set into the hillsides by people who survived, with words carved into them, and the words say something like this: "Do not build your home below this point." They set those stones at the highest line the killer wave reached, and they meant them as a message to every generation that would come after. And for a long time people listened. And then a few generations went by with no big wave, and people got comfortable and greedy and forgot, and they built their pretty new houses down below the stones where the land was cheaper and the view was better. And then the wave came again, the way it always comes again, and it stopped, in places, almost exactly at the old stones. The houses below were gone. The houses above, where the stone told them to stay, stood. Now, you may not have a 1,000-year-old tsunami stone on your land, but you have the same wisdom written in a different hand, and once I show it to you, you will see it everywhere. Look at where the old things are. Look at where the oldest house in the area sits, the one that has clearly stood 200 years. Look at where the old shrine or the old temple or the old church is built. Look at where the original village put itself, before bulldozers and trucked infill made it possible to build anywhere. Those people, the ones who built the old shrine on that particular knoll and not in the flat field below it, they did not have machines. They had nothing but the hard memory of every flood and every slide and every wave their families had lived through, and they used that memory to choose the one safe spot. The old high ground where the shrine sits is the spot that does not flood, that does not slide, that the water never reaches. It has been proven safe by 500 years of disasters that it survived. When you look at a new subdivision, find the old shrine, find the old original village, and notice how the new cheap lots are all the places the old people deliberately refused to build. They knew. The note is right there. The new development is built in all the spots the wisdom said to avoid, because those spots were empty, and they were empty for a reason. So, let me put it all together for you, the whole 60 seconds, the way it actually runs through my head when I step onto a piece of ground. First, the name. What was this place called before somebody made it pretty? Second, the water. Where does it all go when it rains, and am I standing in the low spot? Third, the plants. What is growing here that only grows where it is wet, and is there a greener stripe across the grass? Fourth, the neighbors. Are the old houses cracking and leaning and telling me the ground moves? Fifth, the soil. Is it firm and clean or gray and sour and soft? And sixth, the old wisdom. Where did the people who had no choice but to get it right decide to build, and is this lot one of the places they refused? You can run that whole list in about a minute. It costs nothing. It requires no machine, no inspector, no expensive report. It requires only that you have been taught to see, and now you have been. And I want to be honest with you about why almost nobody is taught to see it, because the honesty matters more to me than sounding clever. It is not a secret. There is no vault. Everything I just told you has been known to farmers and builders and ordinary careful people for as long as people have built homes, and any of it can be found by anyone who goes looking. But there is no money in teaching you to read land for free in 60 seconds. There is enormous money in the opposite. There is money in renaming the swamp so it sounds like a hill. There is money in trucking fill into a marsh and selling the flat result with a view. There is money in moving the cheap, dangerous, low ground fast to a buyer from somewhere else who never knew the old name and never learned to look at the grass. The bad land does not get hidden in a back room. It gets the freshest paint, the prettiest sign, the warmest description, the most motivated salesman, precisely because it is the land that is hardest to sell to anyone who can read it. The whole business runs smoothest when the buyer is blind. I am simply trying to give you your eyes back. The people who taught me had no choice but to get this right. When you cannot call an inspector, cannot pull a report, cannot afford to lose the one piece of ground your family will ever own, you learn to read what the land is telling you, or you do not survive on it. They read the name, they read the water, they read the grass and the neighbors and the soil and the old high ground where the shrine still stands, and they passed it down, hand to hand, grandfather to boy walking the field behind him, because the cost of forgetting was everything. You have been handed a world where you were told a salesman in a clean suit would do the looking for you. He will not. He cannot afford to. But the land has not changed, and it cannot lie, and now you know how to listen to it. So here is what I want from you. Before you so much as visit the next piece of land you are thinking of buying, find out what it was called 100 years ago, and tell me in the comments what the old name turned out to be, because I promise some of you are going to find a swamp or a snake or a dragon hiding under a name like Sunny Hills, and I want to hear it. And if you go stand on a lot and run the 60 seconds, tell me what the grass and the neighbor's walls told you. I read every single one of these. What you find out there, in your own country, on your own ground, is the reason I keep doing this. Next time, I am going to show you the one thing my grandfather did to a piece of ground after he bought it, before he ever laid a single stone of a foundation, to find out for certain whether it would hold a house. It takes a board, a level, and 3 days of doing nothing but watching, and it has never once been wrong. Until then, walk the land slow, read what it tells you, and remember that the people who built their homes with their own hands and made them stand for 200 years knew things we are only just beginning to remember.